Good morning. Appreciate y'all for tuning in and rocking with us for another edition of the Morning Breeze, man. Always rocking with you guys, as always, man. Outside of me, I got my guy, Mr. Media himself, Jordan JC, in the building. Monday morning is here. We all got to get back to work. And it's been an interesting weekend. Was your kids involved? No, I'm not talking about that. We're not doing that. We're not doing that. On today's episode, we got to talk about this free agency that the Bears have had and ask the question, are they putting the NFC North on notice? Are they making things a little bit more nerve-wracking in the NFC North? Already a dominant division. Can we finally say that this team is going to start catching up? And will Ryan Poles finally be able to make good on that promise that he made as he sat at the podium day one of this thing? We're going to take the North and never give it back. I don't know if I'm ready to go there just yet. All that and more in today's episode of the Windy City Breeze Sports Talk Daily. Hit that like button, subscribe to the page, leave a 5-star review. Y'all know what to do. Ladies and gentlemen, the date is 3/17/2025. It's 7:07 in the morning. A little late. And make sure that you let the NFC North know. We back up. Put the word on the streets. Put it out there, though. Here we go. We on the move. We coming. Claws up, bear down. Rawr, as they say. Yeah, big vibes. All right. No, I'm just playing. Appreciate y'all for tuning in and showing love as always, man. Hit that like button, subscribe to the page, leave a 5-star review. Y'all know what to do.
Push the button. Come on. Push the button. Come on, push the button.
Yeah, come on, push the button.
You heard what she said.
Y'all heard what Sue Young said. Hit that like button, subscribe to the page, man. Appreciate y'all for rocking with us as always. How was the weekend for everybody, man? I had a very, very interesting, chill weekend. Friday was a great day. Got a chance to sit down and do absolutely nothing, watch some of the college tournaments, enjoyed myself. In fact, Friday was so nice, I believe it was 80 degrees at one point. I took the TV that is hanging here outside, put it on the back porch, sat outside and watched TV outside, sipping a beer. Enjoyed a little cocktail after that, you know what I mean? And it was a great time. I was like, wow, we finally are getting the turn. Here we go. Saturday, similar vibe. Nice outside. I'm sitting on the back porch. I'm like, yo, got to. Let's have another cocktail. Let's enjoy this weather. Sunday comes, boom. A blizzard and 30. A full-on blizzard and 30. And I walked outside to take the trash out this morning. I don't even know what the weather is this morning. 28 degrees this morning. From 80 to 28. Welcome to the city. Welcome to Chicago, y'all. That was my weekend, man. That was my weekend. But hey, let's talk a little bit of football this morning, man. Appreciate y'all for tuning in and showing love. Is it time? Are the Chicago Bears making the rest of the NFC North nervous? You know, when you get smiles like this from your head coach, does it end in a like this from opposing head coaches who he has already talked trash about since day one of being here? Are the Chicago Bears making the rest of the NFC North nervous? And I do think that there's a valid statement in that, right? I do think that that's something that when you say nervous, right, it doesn't mean that they're scared of you yet. But when you say nervous, it takes a couple of seasons to get right. It takes a couple of seasons for things to start to really going in the right direction. And so I do think that when you say nervous, they are looking around and going, hey, hold on now. When did they get good? When did they acquire this level of talent? When did all of a sudden the wide receivers on the outside start mattering? Wait, they got DJ Moore and Rome Odunze? Wait, they got Cole Kmet too? They didn't even use him last season? How many touchdowns did Swifty run with Ben Johnson? I think nervous is an okay statement. Because when you look at now the Chicago Bears offensive line, I would say they probably have the second best offensive line in the NFC North, which is just going to make the offensive pieces that you have, the weapons on the outside, that much more enticing. And I think that there was a lot of last season the Chicago Bears where you were worried about the weaponry, but you weren't worried about Caleb Williams having any form of protection that was going to make it matter in his life, right? But when you add in Joe Thuney, when you add in the leadership that he's going to bring, when you add in Drew Dolman is now your starting center, when you add in Jonah Jackson at right guard, and you already had Darnell Wright, you're going to be able to run the heck out of the football this season. I think that's the conversation people are more so looking at than anything that we saw last season. And why I've said multiple times, right, that this offseason felt different. This offseason feels completely different. Because last offseason, I enjoyed making all of the moves. I enjoyed making all of the, you get the wide receivers. Okay, we got Keenan Allen. All right, we're making some moves. I like this. I like what we're seeing. Okay. So when are you going to have the trenches? And that move never came. Those outside weapons don't scare you if the inside is not set. But coming off of this offseason, it truly does feel like the inside of this offensive line is set now. And now I think that does make a lot of teams in this NFC North nervous, especially teams who, I mean, if we're being real, overpaid for some pieces like the Packers did this offseason, trying to get their offensive line right. Who kind of, I mean, when you look at the defensive line of the Vikings, I think that that's something that is terrifying, and you continue to see them get better. Are they going to have another step, even though they're going with a rookie quarterback? I like the things that they're doing. This is not me saying that the Bears are going to destroy the NFC North, but what I do think is that now the Bears feel like a real football team. It never felt like a real football team going into last season. Remember, I was sitting here going, this offensive line is not good. This offensive line is not talented enough. And then we saw it in preseason. It was kind of like, all right, well, maybe they got some talent out there. And then the season started, and no, they were not talented enough, which is exactly what we expected. You had all the weapons in the world, but in the trenches, you just weren't talented enough. And that seems to have finally gotten through with Ben Johnson joining the Chicago Bears here. That seems to have finally gotten through with the new coaching staff that is now here in Chicago, making things abundantly clear on the kind of players that the Chicago Bears want. And that is why I believe, yes, the Chicago Bears are making the NFC North a little bit more nervous this season. They are putting teams a little bit more on notice, saying this is not going to be the same old Chicago Bears. Now, it does not matter until you get on the field. None of it matters until you get on the field and you actually prove something. But I look at last season and I look at how many games the Bears could have been in if, for the love of God, you could just keep Caleb Williams upright. Look at that Houston Texans game early on in the season, the first game where he ends up taking 8+ sacks. That was a very winnable game by the end of that game, but you couldn't keep him upright. Now, a lot of this still predicates on Caleb Williams taking another step. And for some reason in Bears circles, that is blasphemous to say, as if he should have already been crowned the crown jewel of Chicago already. That, to me, is not the conversation we need to be having about Caleb Williams right now. To me, where Caleb Williams is at on the offensive side is you need him to take another step and become that consistent quarterback that he was at the end of that Packers game to put them in a position to win, at the end of that Vikings game to tie the game up. You know, it can't just be in the big moments. I love the fact that he's in year one. In year one, was able to continuously put you in the big moments. I love that. But there needs to be that step in weeks in quarters 1 through 3 where boom, hey, this is who I am the entire game. Now, he doesn't get there without the protection. And now having that protection, I think that you can say that you feel a heck of a lot more comfortable about him actually being able to be that quarterback 1 through 3. But you have to get Caleb to that point where he can be that same level of threat week in and week out, quarters 1 through 4. I love the fact that in the fourth quarter, he can turn it on. But I do look at, when you look at the position groups that have been upgraded here, I mean, the wide receiving core was always a threat. It was just about, could you get the ball to him? Now, the run game still needs some vast improvements. I'm not all the way in on DeAndre Swift. Y'all know how I feel about Swifty. I think that, listen, if there's talent in there, he hasn't shown it behind the best of offensive lines. And I think that you haven't had the best of offensive lines. But when I look at where the Bears offensive line is right now, I do think that it's vastly improved, especially for the talent that you're going to have here. You're probably going to bring in a too high priced running back early on in the draft. I'm not saying Genty. You know what I mean? That's not where I'm at. I'm leaning more, give me an Omarion Hampton. I would love a Cam Scatterbo in the 3rd round. I know some of y'all are all in on Genty. But I do think that there's a situation here that the Bears have created just on the offensive side of the football that has people looking around going, uh-oh, they might be real this year. Even Amon-Ra St. Brown. Remember, he was talking about us on the St. Brown podcast. Derek Moss says Scatterbo has 1,000,000 miles on those legs already. That's okay. I'm not looking for a 10-year running back, dog. I'm looking for a 2 to 3 year running back. I'll run it back again next year. Y'all know how I am. So I'm not worried about finding no 10-year running back in the draft. Worried about finding a 10-year lineman. Give me the best running back available when we get to that point. I do think you also have to look at the situation around the NFC North as well, right? Not to say that none of the other teams got better. I think that just about all of the teams got somewhat better. Maybe the Packers can win a couple of games in the division finally. But I do think that, when you look at the Minnesota Vikings, I think that they got better immediately. I think that they went out and they were spending money. They were trying to upgrade offensive and defensive line, make things easier for JJ McCarthy. as he's going to get the opportunity to come in here and be the starting quarterback. Love it. But the big question is JJ McCarthy. The big question is he the quarterback that you believe that he is? Now you're giving him all the opportunity. You're giving him all the tools. And very much like I said last season, when everybody was ready to write the Vikings off as a 4-win team, I was like, listen, I didn't have them winning. What did they win last year? 13, 14 games. I didn't have them winning that much. But I did have them going out there and still being a competitive team, because it was like, at the end of the day, you say set hut, you drop back, you look over, Justin Jefferson's down there, and you let it fly in his direction. That's going to make JJ's life a heck of a lot easier. On top of that, they invested in the offensive line, invested heavily in that defensive line over there. I think you've got some nice pieces. With the Lions are a question mark. Now, I'm not sitting here telling you that they've fallen off, and I think that Ben Johnson speaks truthfully when he says, listen, where that team is at right now, anybody could come in and coach it. But we've seen that here in Chicago, haven't we? That was the defense that we had. Remember that? Remember that 2018 defense that Vic Fangio left and said anybody could coach this defense with how I've got them humming? And then Sean Desai came in and proved, no, anybody can't coach this defense. There's a special situation that you have when it's all perfectly set up. And that Vikings offense, that Lions offense was perfectly set up. Now, are the pieces still there? 100%. And I don't expect Amon-Ra St. Brown to fall off. I don't expect there to be a lack of running game all of the sudden. I do expect some small philosophy changes with now the new offensive coordinator kind of by committee over there being brought in. But what I do like is that they still have that stability there. And I think that still makes them continue. It still has them, in my mind, as the gem, excuse me, of the NFC North. But can we talk about that just remaining without the equation? Is Jared Goff going to continue to be the same quarterback without Ben Johnson there? Haven't we seen that? Jay Cutler having one of his best seasons of all time with Adam Gase. All of a sudden, Adam Gase leaves. It's okay. We're going to just bounce right back. He's going to remain the same. Oh, wait a minute. No. Oh, boy. He's not the same quarterback at all. Now, looking at the defensive side of the football and some of the improvements that the Bears have made there, I think they made one crucial investment. That is going to help them bounce back defensively in a way that we didn't see last season, because last season the big question was the run game. Last season the big issue was, well, the Bears can't the Bears can't stop the run to save their lives. I don't know what happened to the run defense last year. I don't know what happened to the philosophy, but the Bears cannot figure out how to stop the run. I think the addition of Grady Jarrett is going to be the most important piece in that. And not to say that Grady Jarrett is going to be this elite run stopper, but what he does is he allows you to come in on pass rush downs. He can take over kind of that Andrew Billings role in the middle on the pass rush downs. And not to say you only want Andrew Billings out there on run plays, but what it does is it brings the focus back on Andrew Billings to say, hey, go out there and just be a run stuffer. We need you to be the run stuffer that you were 2 seasons ago. We need you to be the guy who literally, whenever you were on the field, we were just going, you're not going to be able to run the football on this Bears team. And I think you're going to see more of an uptick in that this season than what we saw last season, because there's going to be more opportunity for him not to have to focus on the pass. I think when the Bears didn't go and invest in that opposite edge, you had to look at Andrew Billings and say, listen, we need you to be one of the guys penetrating from the middle. We need you to be dominant as far as a pass rusher. And he changed his body style a little bit, got himself a little bit slimmer, was able to get to the quarterback a heck of a lot more. But then that destroys who he was as a run stuffer. I think that changes this season. You see him come back as one of those big name run stuffers. And now we're talking about the Bears defense being more solidified up the middle. Now, Montez Sweat got to be better on the outside. Dayo Odeyingbo, I know, will be better on the outside. Dayo Odeyingbo in the run game, love him. That's where I'm excited to see him get out there and get to work. Especially with how he's got as far as a pass rush win rate, being able to beat his man one-on-one. Like, I think that's going to help the Chicago Bears run defense tremendously this season. Oh, by the way, the draft is still coming. So you're still going to be able to add pieces. And so when you talk about nervous defensively, I think the Bears have made tweaks to both sides of the ball. I think that they are now a team that feels more sound on both sides of the ball. Because you already had everything else. Were you worried going into last season about Jalen Johnson, about Tyreek Stevenson? Were you worried about Kyler Gordon? Were you worried about Jaquan Brisker? Were you worried about Kevin Byard? No. Were you worried about TJ Edwards? No. You were worried about if you had enough pressure in the trenches. Were you worried about DJ Moore and Keenan Allen and Rome Odunze, Cole Kmet? I wasn't. DeAndre Swift I was worried about. Still am. But if you're talking about continuously building, you have those pieces still on the outside, and now you've invested heavily inside the trenches. I'm not sitting here telling you the Bears are taking the North. But do I look at Amon-Ra's comments and say, hey, it might be a little bit nervous up there in Detroit, especially with losing everything? We've had those teams that, listen, you lose your coaching staff, you lose those key pieces, and the team just doesn't look the same anymore. We've had those teams. They're still good. They're still going to be good. They're still the class of the division. But you literally took a number one piece at the quarterback position off of the Minnesota Vikings. You took a quarterback that was dominant last year and were like, we don't need you, which is fine. Which is fine. You know what I mean? But is JJ just gonna all of a sudden walk in and just be a god? I guess Sam Darnold did, so we'll see. What? And don't get me started on Green Bay. I've been calling them the frauds of the division for a little while. I was halfway through last season. And I was like, they haven't beaten a team over 500 yet. I was halfway through the season last year looking at Green Bay just going, are they going to start winning versus like good football teams? They can beat us. But are they going to beat anybody in the division besides us? No? Oh, all right. Okay. That's an interesting situation that the Packers have up there. A very interesting situation that the Packers have up there. You know what I mean? Like, and I see Jimmy Hoffa losing his mind. I love anytime you bring up anything Packers, he just instantly flips the switch. What are you talking about? Like, shout out Steve-O. He said, I think people kill Swift because they don't really, I'm assuming you meant know in there what he is. He's not an every down back yet. We used him like one. Well, the problem with Swift is he's making $8 million and he's not an every game back. Like, I'm sorry. We keep having this conversation. 1,000 yards is cool. But how you get those 1,000 yards is what matters. DeAndre Swift is the Chris Middleton of the NFL. That's what he is. DeAndre Swift is the Chris Middleton of the NFL, especially over these last couple of seasons. And Muggs sit there and run to me and be like, he was a Pro Bowler in Philly. That's great. But look at him game by games. Look at them game logs. That's the conversation you got to have. I get it. We want to have love for our guys and we want to rock with our guys no matter what. Look at the game logs on DeAndre Swift. 900 yards last season with a bad offensive line. He broke 100 yards one time. He broke 100 yards carrying one time. In Philly, he broke 100 yards rushing 3 times. I've continued to say that this kind of just is who he is. I'm sorry, he broke 100 yards rushing twice in Philly. Well, to be fair, you can't really run the ball when you're playing from behind like we were last season. He didn't have the what my point is, he's the same dude that he was in Philadelphia, and he didn't have any of the issues that he had in Chicago. We just want to pretend like, oh, it was all the Bears' fault that he fell off. No, it wasn't. I watched the game versus the Jets where he had 18 carries, or where he had 10 carries for 18 yards. That's in Philly. DeAndre Swift is who he is. It's why you need to upgrade the position. And as far as him being this receiving back, show me the season where that has been the case. He's had good catches for runs. He has not had good seasons catching the football. We all want to make him into this guy that I shouldn't say he hasn't had. The second season in Detroit, I believe he caught 62 passes and almost 500 yards. That's his best year. But he hasn't been that guy since his second season in Detroit. Now, maybe that is right. Ben Johnson back with him. He'll be able to become that receiving back again. Maybe this is Ben Johnson's the guy that unlocks that. Maybe that's something else that does help, but I assume you're going into this draft looking to address, and it cracks me up, looking to address running back, I should say. It cracks me up. There's so many people always sit here and argue me up and down on why DeAndre Swift is good and then immediately scream, draft a running back in the first round. Is he good or do we need a running back? Because if he's good, you shouldn't even be thinking running back. Hey, man, appreciate y'all for tuning in and showing love. Hit that like button, subscribe to the page, leave a 5-star review. Y'all know what to do. I love the fact that we got the Discord going in the chat that we do. Jimmy Hoffa always keeping that Packers hate alive in Bears fans' heart. Shout out to Jimmy Hoffa in the building, man. Shout out to Steve-O in the building, man. Levante in the building. What's going on, my guy? Who else we got up in here? Lions for the win. Oh, we got a Lions fan up in here. Lions fans in the building. Anybody seen Don Burr? I'm starting to get concerned. Haven't seen Don Burr in a while here. Is he still in the Bears press conferences? Is he just ignoring us? The Ricky Pruitt show in the building. What's going on? Smitty in the building. What's going on? Papa, do that there. Is in this mug, man. It's Crimson in the building. What's going on? Appreciate y'all for tuning in and showing love, man. We're going to take a quick break, listening to a word from our sponsors, and then we come back. Do we think that Ryan Poles can finally make good on his promise to take the North and never give it back? We'll talk about that all in a sec. But first, a word from our sponsors over at Aura. Appreciate you guys for tuning in and watching the show. Today's episode of the podcast is brought to you by Aura. Have you ever done a Google search on your own name? You'd be surprised what pops up. Your full name, email address, home address, health records, your relatives. It's all out there. And that's why I've been using Aura, the sponsor of today's video. Aura shows me which data brokers are selling my information and automatically submits opt-out requests just for me. Cleaning up my information not only helps reduce the amount of spam I get, but it protects me from hackers who could use that information to help them access my social media, bank accounts, and other sensitive information. It's really simple to set up. I don't have to download several apps or go to things like antivirus, VPN, password management, parental controls, identity theft, but you can get all of that in one place with Aura. I get everything at one affordable price as well. You may already have one or two of these tools, but not having Aura is like leaving the front door locked while leaving the back door and windows wide open. For you to be able to take advantage of Aura, we got a special deal for you here today. Stop data brokers from exposing your personal information. Go to my sponsor at https:/aura.com/the Windy City. Again, that is aura.com/the Windy City to get a 14-day free trial and see how much of your information is being sold. Appreciate y'all for tuning in and showing love, man. Hit that like button, subscribe to the page. Leave a 5-star review. Y'all know what to do. Talking about are the Bears making the NFC North nervous? It's been a very interesting conversation this morning. One that I always enjoy having. Offseason talk's always fun. It's always the time where every team can just beat their chest no matter what happened last season. You know what I mean? Jimmy Hoffa can drop all the numbers about why the Packers were a better team than they really were. And yet we remember them not beating anybody good. Oh! Crazy Cross said, Pat, where'd y'all get that or beat from? Joel made it. Question that I do want to ask, and appreciate y'all for tuning in and showing love. Do you feel like we're getting closer to Ryan Poles' prediction when he showed up here actually being correct? And I'm not just talking about winning the division. I'm talking about the Bears having long-term success. I'm talking about the Bears being a team that you have to fear in the NFC North for years to come. Do you feel like you're finally getting closer to that prediction holding true? Because when I look at where this team is at right now, they made 2 moves this offseason that I actually believe, now they have to pan out, but that I actually believe if they work, could set the Bears up to prove Ryan Poles' prediction true. That I actually believe could set the Bears up for long-term success. And it's about creating that foundation now. It's about creating the mindset that needs to be in that building now. And that was the acquisition of Joe Thuney and Grady Jarrett. I almost said Gerald Everett. Because there was a word thrown around. I asked Grady Jarrett about this when we were up at Hallis. There was a word thrown around a ton last season, right? Accountability. Are you going to hold teams accountable? Well, are you going to be accountable? Are you going to hold the players accountable? And at no point last season did we see anybody get held accountable. Right? At no point last season, right, when you see Nate Davis walking around the building and you're just like, what the heck is like, is he dead? Like, what's happening here? At no point last season did it feel like the Bears were going to have that accountability in the building. Now you have somebody coming in who's going to have 4 Super Bowl rings on one hand and be able to backhand you with it if you are not listening in that offensive line room, one that has been absolutely abysmal. And what is it? To me, those are the conversations on getting the penalty numbers down drastically for this Bears team. Now, there's still going to be some penalties committed. I'm not sitting here telling you that the Kansas City Chiefs were the least penalized offensive line, but there was a standard there. And there was hey, listen, if we mess up, we're going to shoot ourselves in the foot. And it's about being timely with the penalties. Penalties are going to happen. You're going to have false starts. You're going to have illegal man down fields. You're going to have these moments, but are they happening in crucial moments? That's what you didn't see out of the Kansas City Chiefs. You want to know why the Chiefs were able to win so many one-score games or close games last season when you go back and look at it? Because at the end of games, when most teams were ending up shooting themselves in the foot, the Chiefs didn't. Because at the end of games, when most teams were out there doing things that were putting them in a position where you were giving the Chiefs that little bit of advantage, the Chiefs didn't give it back. You want to know what the Bears did last year? Not that. You know what I mean? Like every time Caleb Williams will get a good drive going, what we see, say, oh, why is Braxton Jones jumping? And now listen, that may have to be an upgrade in personnel. That may have to be an upgrade at that position in the long run, right? Which I think that could be something that the Bears do in the draft here. But you kind of got to work with what you got here. And what you have here is talented players that have made dumb mistakes. You have to get rid of the dumb mistakes in those moments. 100%. GJC. Why is Stevenson waving to fans? Those are the things that if they happen, and it's not even that, right? It's not even just that. And I'm saying all this for the reason of the original statement, right? Do we think that the Bears are going to be able to finally take the North? You can't do that without already having some level of accountability in the building. You can't do that without having some level of, hey, if this thing happens, we're going to take care of it. And I'm not going to sit here and tell you that Tyreek Stevenson will never turn to fans and wave at them again, although I think that he probably won't because of how that game ended and him coming in not doing his job and causing the Bears to have yet another loss. But I'm not sitting here telling you that that is the situation that the Bears are in now, that no one's ever going to make a mistake again. What I'm sitting here telling you is that if that happens and Grady Jarrett is in the locker room, we're not going to be sitting there asking questions going into next week about, well, do you think he's going to be held accountable? Is there going to be some kind of punishment? Do you feel like you should punish him? Do you feel like there should be some level of accountability that is held to not start it? I asked Jason McKee, right? Remember, because all they did was he didn't get first team reps in practice and they didn't start him for the game, but he still played in the next game. And I asked J-Mac, I said, J-Mac, does that matter? And J-Mac was like, am I still playing? I was like, yeah, you still played. No, because me and Terrell Smith split snaps anyway. You know what I mean? Like, those are the things to me where we're not going to be worried about that. I'm not going to have questions on, are guys going to be put in positions to succeed? I'm not going to ask questions on, are guys going to be put in positions to lead? Because a lot of the leaders that we had on this team last season, we finished the season going, oh, okay, all right, here we go. Accountability. Again, that's a word that I think is going to be immensely important this season. And I wonder how some of the people who were screaming for the accountability are going to react when that accountability actually is put in place. Because it's easy to call for it when nobody's holding anybody accountable. It's easy to call for it when you're the one, until somebody looks at you and say, well, you screaming accountability. What are you doing? You're the one sitting here yelling at all of them to get their stuff right. Is your stuff right? Because I watched the tape to finish last season, and you right here, you didn't make this stop on third down, and that's why we lost the game. You right here, you didn't catch this pass on fourth down in a crucial moment, and that's why we lost the game. I really am interested to see how this is going to go this season when you talk about accountability. But I do believe that it will be in the building. I think when you have this madman, and I'm not going to lie to you, bro, we got to have a conversation on guys like this madman here, this mad scientist. Hey, Tyreek, say you tip that football there. How about you come in my office real quick and we just Grady Jarrett top rope. We got to have a conversation on difference between a psycho and a crazy person. And I'm talking in the football sense here. Because there are certain dudes that are psychos. Those dudes usually don't fail. You got some crazy dudes. You got some dudes when you talk to them, you go, oh, this dude's nuts. Those guys fail. But if you're willing to look at me, smile like this and go, it's going to be fun. Oh, buddy. Whoa. That's Gruden-esque. That's a Gruden smile right there. That's a hopefully he's got no emails out here. But it's just, if you're going to do the whole Ryan Poles take the North and never give it back thing, that's how you start it. It doesn't start with we've got good players in the building. You had good players last season. Montez Sweat can play football. Andrew Billings can play football. Javon Dexter can play football. On the offensive line, you didn't have good players. That's a problem. But we've had talented pieces. But do you have a standard that talent will never go beneath? That's what Detroit has. That's why Detroit has the best chance to maintain who they are heading into next season, because there's a standard. There is a level that you have to practice at to get on the field. That's what we need to see here in Chicago. And that's what I think. Listen, when you talk about accountability, I'm sitting here naming you players that are going to hold things accountable. Do some of that stuff with Dennis Allen. Run that way with Eric Bieniemy as your coach. You know what I mean? Don't practice hard with Ben Johnson as your head coach. Yeah, I still see you. I'm still watching. Always watching, Wazowski. Some of the training camp practices we saw last season, oh my God, I would love to see Ben Johnson just take a look at those. I would love to be in a room with Ben Johnson watching how Matt Eberflus ran practice last season. That's why I think that I don't think it's going to happen this year. I still think there's too many obstacles to overcome. I told y'all, I got the Bears as a 9-win team. Hopefully they win more. But I'm not sitting here over drinking the Kool-Aid here. There's some sugar in it. It tastes a little sweeter this year. But you got to spend your season building your foundation and building your principles on who your football team is going to be. Now, heading into the following season, can we have that conversation? Maybe we can have it then. But right now, am I sitting here telling you that Ryan Poles' prediction is going to be true? No. Because you got players. You got all the beams. You got the roof up. And you got no foundation. This is the first year of you trying to build a foundation. And there's two things that I think you need to have absolutely known by the time you come out of the season. Number one is that the offensive line is going to be an offensive line that can be together and be talented for years to come. You've invested a lot. I love how you paid guys to put them in positions where everybody's up in 2027, basically when Caleb gets paid and all of that stuff. I think Ryan Poles' structured contract's great. I need that to happen. And I need Joe Thuney to tell Caleb Williams that he has the confidence, or that he has the talent and should have the confidence to be able to go out there and be the leader of this team without fear of the backlash of what the coach is going to say. Because that was a problem last season that, listen, as a rookie quarterback, he shouldn't have had to deal with. My rookie quarterback shouldn't be put in positions where somebody's got to call a timeout on the sidelines. And he's in his brain going, maybe I should call a timeout. Well, I don't want to overstep. What I want to finish this season with is Ben Johnson and Joe Thuney sitting there telling Caleb Williams, if we need a timeout in that moment, you take it. You're the captain. You're the leader. I need a confident Caleb Williams this season. I need one that knows, hey, I'm the boss in this mug. What I do, they say. How I move, they follow. Because that's what happens with Pat Mahomes. That's what happens with Tom Brady. I told y'all when the Trey Smith news broke, right? All the Trey Smith stuff coming out. Oh, he's going to be gone. They don't have the money to keep him. How are they going to do this? Blah, blah, blah. You know Pat placed that call. He's 26 years old, bro. Figure out how to keep Trey here. Do what you got to do. You know Pat placed that call. Now, he probably didn't know it meant get rid of Joe. It probably I said, I didn't mean that. I didn't mean do that. But it's this team will go as far as Caleb Williams can take them. And for him to get you to that point, I think there has to be a confidence in year two that I can have the autonomy to go with my gut decision that wasn't there in year one. And I think that Ben Johnson brings a lot of that with him as well. Hey, man. Appreciate y'all for tuning in and showing love. Hit that like button, subscribe to the page, leave a 5-star review. Y'all know what to do. I'm going to get up out of here, man. There's going to be more content coming you guys' way, as always, here on the Windy City Breeze. Shout out to all the fans of the show tapping in. Shout out to all the fans of other teams that are fans of the show tapping in and watching with us here, man. We got a lot coming you guys' way. Got a lot of content coming as in all places. Make sure to tap in if you're a Bulls fan with the Chicago Bulls Breeze. If you have not subscribed to the Chicago Bulls Breeze, we're posting content over there, trying to get that up to 3 days a week. Going to do Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays for posting and trying to go live for as many of these games as possible. Sometimes I do want to hang myself in some of these games, but that's a whole different conversation. But appreciate y'all for rocking with us as always. Y'all stay safe out there, Chicago. Bear down. One love. We'll see y'all a little bit later today. I believe the full team is back in studio today. I don't know. We may have full squad in studio. So tap in with us then. Bear down. One love. Peace. Oh my God.